Good afternoon. We're going to be speaking about personality traits, attitudes, motivation, and use of social media tools in a blended course. Unfortunately, we're not there to present it in person. I'm Jennifer Thomas from Pace University, New York City. My colleague is Danielle Morin from Concordia University in Montreal, Canada. Statistics, as you know, is a course that has been taught in many disciplines: business, economics, computer science, and engineering, and often in psychology and sociology and other areas as well, and many more. Fear of this quantitative field has often generated feelings of anxiety and apprehension among students. And for most of the time that statistics has been taught, it's been via blackboard and chalk. However, we now have the introduction of technology, whereby many times the in-class courses are supplemented with a material that is presented online, as well as courses that are completely online. Added to that mix, we also have the social media aspects that have also been integrated into the learning. Some of the studies have shown that attitudes, motivation, personality traits, and gender do have an impact on how students react to material and how the learning is imparted to them and is worthy of study. The impact of students' personality traits and gender on attitudes and motivation towards statistics is one of the things that we'll be looking at in the study that we did. And students' use also of social media tools in the course and whether these differ according to gender. The course is a statistics models for data analysis in an intermediary statistics course that is mandatory for me in the supply chain management course, and the minor in data intelligence in a Canadian university. It is a one-semester course assuming a previous course in introductory statistics. An online survey was used in which there were 4 parts to it. The first part of the information that was collected was to do with the demographics of the students. The second part was an instrument that tried to capture their personality traits, looking at their extroversion, agreeableness, their conscientiousness, neuroticism, and intellect. The third part of the survey was about attitudes, motivation, and anxiety towards statistics learning, and also various exam formats. The fourth part is about the use of social media tools. I will now pass over the presentation to my colleague who will give you the results of what our study showed and the conclusions and implications that we draw from it all. Thank you.
Good afternoon. The demographic results indicate the following. 101 students participated in this study. Of them, 45.5% are female and 54.5% are male. Of the students who participated, 68.4% were between the age of 20 and 24 years of age, 26.7% between 24 and 30, and 3.9% are older than 30, and only 1% are younger than 20 years of age. The personality traits have been allocated according to a series of statements that students had to indicate their level of agreement. We find 47.6% of female were assigned to the agreeable category, while 38.3% of male to the intellect category. If we compare this 38.3% for male and compare it to female at 9.5% only for the intellect, we find a very big difference. And this difference is shown everywhere in all the categories. A chi-square test of independence between personality traits and gender has been conducted, and we find that traits of personality and genders are not independent. Results were also obtained through 5 statements, where again people had to give their level of agreement. The statement concerned attitudes and motivation towards statistics. So in general, we found that students with different personality traits show different level of agreement with the statement presented. For example, the neurotic group that we have here gave the strongest level of agreement with the first statement, considering statistics as a complicated subject. They feel apprehensive, most probably, about it. Students who fall in the extroverted categories gave the strongest support to the statement, which demand strong mathematical skills to be successful in a statistics course. Students who fall in the conscientious group show the strongest level of agreement with the last three statements. Statistics is a pleasant subject. Knowing statistics would improve job opportunity, and it's easier for me to learn statistics in class instead of online. This course understudy was offered in class. So we see that the different personality traits will give different support for different statements. This part of the study here will look at the personality traits and gender and their anxiety. If we start with gender at the bottom of the table here, we see that in general, whether the exam is a closed book format, whether it is an open book format, or it is simply writing a statistics exam, we see that the level of anxiety is always higher with the female group than it is with the male group. 7.68 compared to 6.83, and we find that everywhere. Now, for the other part of the table, we see that in the case for a closed book exam, the neurotic students are the most anxious. And in fact, it is the case before writing a statistics exam. They are, in general, more nervous, more anxious than the other students. In the case of an open book exam, we find that the agreeable students are more anxious than the other students. So this is also very interesting to see that in this case, the highest level of anxiety is for the agreeable group. But in general, we see that the anxiety is lower when the exam is an open book instead of a closed book exam. We have also studied the use of social media tools versus gender to see if the distribution of the usage is similar. Overall, we find that 99% of students use social media tools, mainly in the form of email, Facebook, text messaging, phone calls, and we can see also face-to-face. 74% of female students communicate using email, while this frequency is 85% among male students. More female students will opt for the face-to-face approach, while only 73% of male will use this approach. The same thing is true for Facebook usage, 21% superior in the case of female than male students. We see that the distribution of the usage is different according to gender. Well, we have to keep in mind that a student could be using more than one social media tool, and this is why the total does not add up to 100%. We also looked at the number of social media tools used by students according to gender. As we can see at the bottom of the table, the average number of tools is almost the same, 3.30 for female and 3.31 for male. However, the distribution looks slightly different. We see that 14.5% of male students use one media tool, while this is only at 6.5% for female. And there are also some differences here where we have some female students using 7 social media tools, accounting for 2.2% of them. The distribution is different, and it gives us an indication, yes, that the number of social media tools and the independence must be studied, the gender must be studied together. Several conclusions were obtained from this study. Different levels of agreement for the statement presented concerning attitude and motivations were based on gender and personality traits. Those two variables have an impact. We also found that most students use social media tools, mainly email messaging, but also Facebook, text messaging, phone calls, but they also rely on the face-to-face, which also varied according to gender. We found the average number of social media tools is almost the same for both male and female, but the distribution is different. The level of anxiety of female students before exams of any format is always higher than that of male students. For future research, we recommend that instructional design needs to take into account gender and personality trait differences as it relates to attitude motivation, exam anxiety, and social media use in a statistics course. How these relate to performance would need to be investigated. We have taught many years concerned with our pedagogy, but it is time that we include in our pedagogy the social media tools that are so much part of the student life. We thank you for your attention. We, we wished we were there with you. We hope you have enjoyed our presentation. And on my behalf, Danielle Morin and Jennifer Thomas, we thank you for your attention.